always a very special feeling to be back in Istanbul, and frankly, I cannot envisage a more vibrant place where one could speak about the return of geopolitics today. This has partly to do with the fact that Turkey has a multifaceted foreign policy and strategic outlook. It has a deep understanding of the Middle East and the Mediterranean, as much as it is engaged with Central Asia and the Black Sea region. But it has also to do with Turkey's role in the Russia-Ukraine war as a textbook example of middle power activism. As a brilliant mind like Ivan Krastev has put it, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has been averse to Cold War alliances, ingeniously crafting a Zelig-like ambition to be the bride at every wedding and the baby at every christening. True to form, Ankara has downplayed its identity as a NATO member and US ally in exchange for the role of mediator between Moscow and Kiev. The war in Ukraine has been a watershed moment for the European and Western security community. In the span of a few months, weeks even, we saw the transformation of an estranged neighbor on the doorstep of Europe into an aggressor of a European country. In fact, the signs had been there since the invasion of Crimea. That must have been a non-negotiable red line for both the EU and NATO, for us all in the West. Instead, we kept living on the illusion that such a major transgression would only lead to a continuous frozen conflict with no real and imminent consequences to the Western security. But these illusions were shattered with the Russian aggression of 24th of February this year. And let me share with you my conviction that the assault on Ukraine is not just about Ukraine. It is an assault on the whole Euro-Atlantic community. Energy price crisis and war inflation are the weapons aiming to bring the rest of Europe down at its knees and to change the security architecture of our continent. The Western Balkans, from where I come, is a region imbued with very specific vulnerabilities and exposed in particular ways to the challenges emanating from the most recent geopolitical competition, the new types of security threat, and especially from the conflict in Ukraine. Unlike the rest of Europe, we in the Western Balkans have countries where over 70% of the population still believe that Russia is not an aggressor and that Putin is not guilty, but a leader who can be trusted to bring security in Europe and to change the balance of powers in our continent. We have countries, namely Serbia or Republika Srpska also, that has a very strong influence on Bosnia itself, for which the alignment with the Euro-Atlantic values is part of their national identity and national orientation, and the non-alignment, sorry. In the meantime, the alignment with Euro-Atlantic values as part of national identity is the case for Albania and Kosovo especially, but also for North Macedonia and somehow Montenegro. And this is precisely because of all these very important differences that it's so important for the region to have a strategic partner like Turkey in the diplomatic, political, and economic front. And it's very important also to say it clearly and loudly to all our European and American friends that in the Southeast Europe, and especially in Western Balkans, Turkey is not a third power. Turkey is not a foreign other in our part of Europe, because much of our history of state formation, as well as our integration in the Euro-Atlantic community is embedded with the path and the history of Turkey. We cannot forget the central role that Turkey has played in, on one hand, easing the tensions in the region, on the other hand, in helping firsthand our military to become a real, true member of NATO in terms of the standards and of the capacities. So let me get this straight. Turkey is a regional power, and for our region, for the Western Balkans, is a determining one. The truth is that the European international system, which has laid the basis for 20th century international system, has failed to incorporate two very different actors of the continent, Turkey on one side and Russia on the other side. In the current geopolitical context, Turkey has shown that it is a very special and I would say irreplaceable contributor to European and global security. Through its flexible and pragmatic approach and by cultivating a plethora of strong and good partnerships, Turkey has indeed served and can serve, as we are witnessing in nowadays, as a broker of many disputes related to traditional security, as well as newer security challenges in the area of energy, of food supplies, of migration. Let me bring you back for a single moment to that determining moment in Europe's history when Turkey managed single-handedly the migration crisis caused by the Syrian war from 2016 and onwards. Without Angela Merkel, the honor of Europe would have not been saved. It was her who stood for welcoming the emigrants in Germany at that big crisis. But without Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the walls of Europe would not have stand. And I have always felt that this is a natural, simple truth. And I never understood why, when I say it, in Europe, people are not happy, and in Turkey, people are so happy. This is normal, simple, true. Turkey is key for the stability of Europe. And if we would imagine for one moment the other way around, imagine how terribly Europe would fall without its backdoor being safeguarded exactly by Turkey, and exactly thanks to your president. The inability of Europe to work with those who are different, and I put different among parentheses, from the standard model core of Europe member states, has hindered, in fact, an inclusive model of European security. And in order to engage with Turkey more meaningfully, the EU needs to shift its own thinking beyond thinking of the partners and neighbors only through the enlargement prism. Because as a result, what we are witnessing is that the EU has been left with a limited sense of its own strategic independence, centered around normative models of rules, norms, and governance. And in this context, I must say, the new initiative of the European political community is very welcomed. An idea born in 18th century, thanks to a French who envisaged peace for Europe only through a big platform of unity and cooperation between all the countries, including the countries that at that period were under the Ottoman Empire, and including Russia. So a fresh impetus has been given to this idea that has come and gone, by establishing an inclusive platform for all European countries, despite their outlook on world affairs or on foreign policy, to sit at the same table and discuss pan-European issues like energy, security, food security, connectivity, traditional security, new threats like cybersecurity. And in this framework of this platform, we must also start to think, now rather than later, of how Russia will be engaged once the war in Ukraine is over, of course, and the territorial integrity of Ukraine indisputable. So, to conclude, I would first say thank you for the honor. It's really a privilege to speak here, and it's a privilege to speak before your president, for once. And in the same time, I would not say that this is the return of geopolitics, but geopolitics was here with us all the time. It was us, especially the part of us in the European Union, who forgot how to think strategically and to create mechanisms to prevent what was coming. And many of us didn't see. And let me say it all, in this regard, Turkey, under the leadership of President Erdogan, is setting a different tone, is giving a different way to reflect on how to deal with each other, and is serving as a playbook for how, in the meantime, you are fully principled, you don't negotiate things like territorial integrity, you don't open paths to quick fixing, but on the other hand, you never forget that at the end of the day, the power is about the people. And in all the efforts of your president to make sure that in the meantime, billions of people are not under the threat of hunger is the true face of Turkey and Turkish leadership, thinking at the end of every day how politics serve the average people, them who have not the chance to be in front of the cameras, them who have not the chance to be heard. Thank you very much.